Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and this video is brought to you by Midway USA, who's the biggest supporter of the channel, and of course, thanks to them I can get better prepared for possible World War III scenarios, which is exactly what we're talking about right now. So, I wanted to give you this update because it seems that things are escalating in a way that maybe we expected to happen much earlier, but because of the timing of it, people have become very normalized to the concept of NATO moving into Ukraine and causing this entire conflict to explode at a nuclear level. And that's an issue. And if you're worried about being nuked off the face of the earth, then hit the subscribe button down below because I think we're all a little bit concerned about that, and you definitely should be based on what's happening right now, or at least within this past week, okay? So, Russian President Vladimir Putin on February 29th said at his State of the Nation address that NATO sending troops to Ukraine could have apocalyptic consequences. And he specifically said, this is very dangerous because it could actually trigger the use of nuclear weapons. Do they not understand that? And I think we all understand that. But it's possible that because of how long this whole thing has gone on for, everybody has forgotten that this is an actual threat. But Putin wanted to remind everybody. So, why did he say this? Well, it was in reference to what French President Macron recently said on February 26th, which he said basically sending troops to Ukraine is not going to be ruled out. And he specifically said, nothing should be excluded. We will do everything that we must so Russia does not win. Well, on February 29th, the same day that Putin had his address of the nation, Le Monde, which is France's largest newspaper, I guess, or news outlet, what do you even call them now? I don't know, but either way, reported that Paris was considering stationing special forces units in Ukraine to create a strategic dilemma for Russia. So, Macron said that on the 26th. Putin said this could create apocalyptic consequences on the 29th, and on the 29th, Paris wanted everyone to know that they're probably going to send special forces into Ukraine. Now, on March 1st, wait, that's like right now, there was reports that the German military was overheard discussing plans for an attack on the Crimean Bridge. Now, there was talks of different types of weapons, the amount of weapons required for said attack, and even the types of jets that would need to be used in order to pull it off. And this was a 40-minute long recording of supposed high-ranking officers within the German military. Now, that would be concerning if you ask me, especially if Germany would be directly involved in an attack on the Crimean Bridge. That's not a good idea in the sense of trying not to get NATO involvement. But it was reported by RT. And originally, if that's who's putting out the information, it might make you think it could be fabricated or possibly not all the way true, right? Well, here's the thing. And I used to think most of what was coming out of there was probably at least not completely factual, right? But on January 3rd, Russia said that there are more than 12 CIA spy bases in Ukraine. And Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said they were taking countermeasures for that activity. All right, well, that's more Russian news coming out of Russia, so who knows what to believe. Except, on February 25th, the New York Times reported on the existence of a CIA-supported network of spy bases in Ukraine that includes 12 secret locations on the Russian border. And guess what? Some of those are actually literally underground in bunkers. So, some of the stuff that Russia's talking about in the sense of high-ranking German officials being recorded saying they might be involved in a plan to attack the Crimean Bridge could possibly, and in all honesty, probably be legitimate, right? I wonder if any of this would be seen as escalation or of NATO troops acting in a combat role in Ukraine. I don't know. Let's think about what Canada would do. Well, Canada is also ready to send troops to Ukraine for training and non-combat roles. And this was said by Defense Minister Bill Blair on February 29th. Okay? They just want to train soldiers, is what they're saying. These will be non-combat roles, but they're ready to send troops to Ukraine. From my understanding, these are NATO troops in Ukraine, which Vladimir Putin just said could have apocalyptic consequences. But, I mean, what do I know? Now, here's the thing. Sending troops to Ukraine for all these reasons that everybody has, because it's for non-combat roles, it's for training, it's to create a strategic dilemma for Russia when it comes to any further invasion activity, right? But this is truly just logistics, right? We're putting a logistics supply network into place. And the problem with that, especially if you're coming from the Russian perspective of why they would be so upset by that activity, is because logistics wins wars. And, well, I mean, France is saying they would have to do everything possible so that Russia will not win. Well, how do you think Russia feels about not losing? I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? All I'm saying is that all of this stuff like just came out within this past week. This is a lot of information and a lot of evidence of NATO activity being directly involved in the Ukrainian conflict. And we just had the president of Russia say that if they are going to send NATO troops, it's probably a bad idea that could have nuclear consequences. And I just wanted to remind everybody that this is a real thing happening right now, that is a real threat that we have to be ready for, and we have to prepare for whatever consequences come thereafter. It's easy to consider the conflict overseas right now as not necessarily being real because we're so far removed. But at any moment, this could escalate to a very dangerous situation for anyone on the planet. And of course, we have everything happening in the Middle East as well, and it's just getting worse every single day. And the leadership involved with NATO right now seems to be willing to test that barrier. They seem to be willing to see what crossing that line might do. And personally, that gives me some concern because I don't necessarily want to see if Russia will launch nukes or not. I would prefer to have no nukes launched. That's just where I'm at, okay? So what do you do about this, though? Because a lot of people will listen to information like this and say, okay, good, I have some good intel now about like what's happening or what just happened. I have the idea in mind that this could escalate further very quickly, possibly. But what do I do about it, right? Like I'm all the way here in the United States, or I'm in the UK, or I'm in Australia, or wherever you are, right? And I'm not necessarily sure what to do with this information. Well, here's the thing. This is more of a reminder than it is actionable intel, right? But it's a reminder that the best thing you can be doing right now, in my opinion, like more than a lot of the stuff we do here in prepping. I mean, you should have food and water put away, and you should have somewhere safe to be. Like those three are just necessities of life, regardless of whatever emergencies are happening in the world. But the best other thing you could possibly be doing right now is just building that network. You will need people if a nuclear war happens. You'll need people, okay? Just like any successful business, you can't do it by yourself. You have to hire or at least associate with people who have different skills and different things to bring to the table in order to have a successful endeavor. And at least in my personal experience, as well as my professional experience, you're not always right about everything. And you need people that also help keep you checked when it comes to making bad decisions. So build that network, build that community. Have people that you can rely on, especially on a local level. You need to get involved with your neighbors. You need to get involved with your community. And you need to figure out if there's anyone you can try to rely on, or if there's anything that you can actually provide them with to give them a reason to allow you to rely on them. Because that's something else you need to consider as well. But for me personally, building a network locally is still my number one priority at this point in time. Because I'm not the guy who's going to be the best to help repair a vehicle, but I know a guy who's better at it than I am. I'm not the guy who's the best at farming, but I know a guy who's better at farming than me. I'm not the guy who's going to put meat on the table in the sense of having lots of experience when it comes to hunting, but I know a few guys who are much better at that than I am. So having these people is going to be important. You can't do it all by yourself. And post-nuclear incident, everything is going to get real difficult real fast. And if you don't think it's going to coincide with a cyber attack or at least some form of disruption regarding communications, then you're probably not paying attention to the way things are evolving, including my ability to use common speech. But either way, NATO's going for it. And NATO is testing that limit at this point in time. And like, look, I'm not on Russia's side or anything like that. All I'm trying to say is I don't want to get nuked. So I'm just not sure how things are working at this point in time. But I do know that the only thing that will matter post a nuke is being able to go talk to my neighbor and find out what we need to do next. And I think that's something that more of us could do more of. So let me know in the comments below how you think this is all going to turn out. Let me know if you think there's a timeline in place. Like, a lot of people are thinking that things will escalate right around the election or right after the election, right? And I have some reasons to believe that might be the case as well. But I also know that spring's right around the corner, and things change when the environment changes as well. And especially over in Eastern Europe, we know there's going to be some major environmental changes coming within the next month or two. So anything else let's just speak another language tonight. Anything else at all you need from me, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for blah, 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 blah.